a 60-inch moose antler. It makes the Maine state record book. That northeast population of hunters are just, I'm sorry to the West Coasters, but we're different.
Alrighty, guys, welcome back to KBB Outdoors Podcast. Today, we have my buddy Ian from Beyond the Boundaries. Today, we're going to talk about some cool topics: Maine moose hunting, as well as shed hunting. We wanted to start out with a tip of the day. So, for all those whitetail hunters, something we don't really think about. We always think about chasing bucks, running after all those does, but actually, scientists have found that matriarch or maternal does will go near mature buck bedding areas, trying to get picked up at scrapes or around those bedding areas by those mature bucks to be bred. So sometimes it's not always the bucks finding the does will hang around those buck bedding areas. So now we'll get an introduction to Beyond the Boundaries from Ian.
Going on. Beyond the Boundaries is a small YouTube channel based out of northern Maine. I'm kind of the founder of it, Ian McKendry. I run it with my best friend, Dawson Daigle. His girlfriend, Kenzie, has pretty big impact. She helps with some of the social aspect of it and getting the word out there. My girlfriend's had some effect as well, pushing me to get out in the woods a little bit more than I have. The whole story behind it started this channel a long time ago, been through a couple name changes, and in kind of the start of COVID 2020, kind of took it off of, I'm gonna really give this a little bit of kind of effort. It's gonna be something. And we did a big shed hunt that year, did 18 sheds first year, 63 the next, and 66 last year. So in 3 years we really did something right. The homework paid off, and we've gained just over, I don't know, 2,000 subs in the last year or two.
That's freaking awesome, dude. Congrats, first of all. I mean,
Thank you.
I'll put the link in the description, but that people don't realize like 2000 doesn't sound like a lot, but on YouTube, like that takes a lot of effort. Sometimes that takes people years. So that's incredible. What are you guys at now for total?
We're at just under 2,200. So
Awesome.
we shot a really big buck 2 years ago, and that was kind of that moment where it really gained. We released the hunt, and you could refresh the page and you could watch the subs go up by 30 or 50 a time. It was
That's
really cool.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing like seeing your hard work pay off because sometimes you'll do a video and you'll think it would be really good and then it tanks or whatever the
Yeah.
case may be. So
Yep.
unfortunately, that's the reality of social media, but obviously that's not why we do it. We have these passions for a reason and we love getting out in the woods. So how many miles did you put in for those 67? Do you keep track of those or is it kind of just whatever works?
Yep. So last year was about 186 miles of hiking, averaged out right around 2.8 miles per shed.
I was just about to do that. Okay.
Yeah, compared to the year prior, it was somewhere around, like, I want to say 10 miles a shed.
Yeah.
Um, like my first year, it was right around 10 miles a shed. And then 63 was a little more than the 2.8, but just that kind of fine tuning, um, getting into better areas and double checking areas. Because we had a
Yeah.
spot from last year we went back into and picked up another 6 antlers that were whites from the year before.
I think that's one of the things that people don't understand is I think a lot of people go in too early and you can miss moose sheds so easy. They sit so flat if they're not huge. Um, so
Yeah,
I know that some people use like sticks and they poke around just if they find one or they go around a rub, just checking just in case. Have you found a lot that way?
I've never poked down through the snow and found one. Right about now is when you'd be doing that.
Yeah.
I God, in the woods, there's probably 4 or 5 foot of snow somewhere. We're kind of full blown into snowmobiling season now. We're not really out looking for sheds. There's definitely folks doing it, but those sheds are buried,
Yeah.
and the infrequency of finding an antler underneath a rub, to me, it's not worth going out right now. I'm I'm gonna save my money right now for gas come April, May, and then I'll really be in the woods. So if you see my truck at the turnaround, don't check the cut. It's already cleaned out.
Yeah, I that's the one thing with shed hunting is like out west, like in Idaho where I go to college, and even out here it's just different. Like it's for me in New Hampshire, I think it's 10 miles per shed. And then I mean, but granted, they're smaller pieces of woods. Like I haven't gone up north a ton to be able to like shed hunt and just follow tracks in the snow. Um, but I've had bucks even shed in April, like
Yeah.
found their shed like April 5th, and I'm like, what the heck? And it still has a bloody base and the wax ring still on it. So, I mean, moose is
Yep.
obviously different. They shed earlier than I think any other antlered species, but I mean, when do you find that they start dropping? Not necessarily when you find them, but if you have trail cameras out or anything.
I have a trail camera out now that I haven't checked yet, and I'd really like to. It was a big burnt out deer, moose trail, just game in general. I wouldn't be surprised if I got a bear or two on it. Um, one of my cameras this year, I had it out until maybe 2 weeks ago or so, didn't have any bullets that had dropped on it. So this was mid-January that I went and got that camera. And
Hmm,
a lot of guys will tell you that moose will drop early, like you're saying. You'll see that, but I think a lot of that has to do with some stress. Maybe there's not a ton of food in the area. Those kind of things, I think, have a bigger effect than people understand. That or an injury. An injury induces that stress to
for
where they
sure.
drop early. Where a year and a half, 2 years ago or something, December 31st was the earliest I had found a shed that was brown. I found two that day. And then when I was going to drive away on the snowmobile, I could hear a moose rubbing on a tree
Hmm.
with an antler still existing. Hopefully, it was the bull that I already picked up, but never ended up going back to that cut. So maybe this year.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is like at the point you have to realize like when do I keep hitting the same spot because I know there's moose there, or when do I just cover new ground and try to find new spots? And I think every shed hunter has to go through those points because they're like, oh, I didn't get to grid search this as much as I wanted to. Because I don't know about you, is but when I've found moose sheds, they're either right next to each other or near each other for a match set, or they're wicked far away.
I've only found um, one set that you could really consider side by side. It was, I don't know, 15 feet apart or something.
Yeah,
The
I'll
others
I'll
have,
count that. That's basically
yeah.
what mine was.
It was funny though, because it was on two different trails.
Hmm.
So it was it would have been like the right side fell on the left trail and the opposite side. So the moose was going different directions and dropped them at different times next to each other.
Interesting.
It was a very cool
Huh.
spot to see it because it was obvious what had happened. It was thick bedding, big cut. This is perfect. It's weird to
Crazy.
see it that it's a side by side, but that's what the story
And
tells you
it's
right in front of you.
100% the same moose.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll send you a photo of it. It's a big green. Um, I don't know how many points it had. It had 5 points on one front and 6 points on the other front, and then some more and big shark bites out of the top. Unfortunately, and it was
Yeah.
probably only a 2 or 3 year old antler. Um,
Yeah,
we had
that's the
yeah,
sad thing about the Northeast is they just get chewed to crap. I mean, they don't get as
which
bleached as much as like Idaho. Like I feel like they get bleached in a year, but
yeah, where I've got sheds that hell, I found one 2 years ago that it was probably a year old brown moose shed or 2 year old brown and zero chews.
Wow.
wow.
Or you'll find like I found a big brown last year, chewed. It's just
Hmm,
I think it's really I don't know. It's got to be the right area to be chewed. Like I think there's got to be that those
for sure.
rodents and whatnot, but bears too will chew them up here. But
Really
we found moose sets anywhere from the set behind me here was 121 yards apart, and then we found another set that day that was 330 yards apart.
Hmm.
And one of that set was right in the middle of these two, like in that 120 span, in between some other trails.
Yeah.
Um,
This set that I found, so this is the most brown one that I've ever found. But I found these guys, and they were probably 100 yards apart. I mean, it's kind
nice.
of weird because his bases are rubbed down like crazy, so he doesn't have the coolest burr compared to the other ones I've found, but he's still got a little bit of velvet on like the inside, and it's kind of cool to see all the veins and moose paddles. I think are just like so much cooler. Like I love all the sheds that I have here, but nothing
Yeah.
compares to a big moose. Like just so cool.
Like that's what a dark brown up here looks like.
Yeah.
Like there's no comparison for it. And the veins, like you're saying, they travel all the way up to the tip of it. This one, like, can't really tell here, but he's got 20-inch, 22-inch fronts. They're
Jeez.
they're way out. And for a match set, he's a pretty one. And this
Did
set,
he break that point off, or did it just not grow?
yeah, he broke it
Dang.
off. Yep.
And
It
that's
would
the
have been
thing
a
that's
cool one.
rare about the set I found is nothing's broken or chewed, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is lucky.
Yeah. I've got a big one that I just hung up on the wall today. I should have taken it down. Maybe I'll pop it down later in this episode, but it's a 60-inch moose antler. It makes the Maine state record book. And before I got home, I had a guy in my text messages saying, "Hey, you found it on such and such a road, right? I've got the other side." So
Shut up.
he had already been up in there, picked up a couple browns. I picked up 3 browns and a white that day, and there was still 3 feet of snow out. So
Are you
some
gonna
of
try to
these,
buy the other side, or what
no,
are the, yeah,
no, I'm gonna just keep this side. It's one of my biggest antlers. That one of the logos I sent you, that 12-point
yeah.
logo that we call it. I found an antler that mimics that antler. 12 points on one side of a moose paddle, and I sold it
Mm.
like an idiot. Sold it to a guy that was going to mount a bear on it, and then he traded it to a guy for a bear trap. So
What?
yeah,
How much did he buy it for, if you don't mind me
uh,
asking?
I think he paid 250, $300 or something for it. It was a good single,
Man,
but it was just dumb of me to sell it. It was probably another 60-inch or 59-inch antler,
yeah.
if not bigger. Like that 12 points, a good paddle, good width too.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you know how to score a moose paddle. You have to go behind the paddle.
Just a little bit. I don't know a ton about it. I've just done like the online, just rough estimate, take a tape
Yeah.
to it.
Yep. So it's funny because none of the tine length matters.
No, yeah.
It's all width, length of paddle, the minimum circumference of the base, like beam, and then number of points. And you kind of add that all up. There might be a multiplication in there somewhere. I forget. I've got my sheet for that one for the record book, but I don't know if I'll turn it in and get my name in the book. Kind of
Oh,
want to do it.
that would be
It'd
super
be pretty
cool.
cool.
Yeah,
It'd be cool. I think you get a patch for it too, like a
that
little
would be cool.
like sew on
Get
patch.
some rep for the channel. Just like,
Yeah, it'd be
hey,
cool.
I got a patch. It's just like the 200-inch or the 200 pound club. I don't know if Maine has that, but New
Oh
Hampshire has
yeah,
like the patches or whatever.
yep. We've got the patch game here.
I've never
It's
had one 200-pound dress. I've had one that was 200 pounds, but it's probably like 180 after dress, but 185. But
yeah.
one
This
day,
buck here was 180 dressed. Big 10-pointer.
can
The
you move the
one,
camera at all so I
yeah,
can see them?
yeah,
Oh, it's a beauty.
yeah. Big 10. Then you got a Fisher here from
Sick.
2 years ago. And another big shed. Yeah.
I need to get one of those shed antler displays. I mean, I I just don't want to throw a hole in this one, but this one's from a 206-inch buck. Um, and recently, I haven't told anyone about this because I'm not supposed to like show a video of it, but we have a potential New Hampshire state record on camera, on trail camera. My buddy
Whitetail,
does.
a
Whitetail.
whitetail,
Yeah.
archery or rifle.
I mean, I think it could break either.
190, 200.
It's pushing 200, yeah.
Man.
It's the biggest New England deer I've ever seen, besides Massachusetts, because Massachusetts they have suburban
Yeah.
bucks. They get super old. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the thing is like you can get a lot of big bucks in a lot of areas. Genetically, yeah, we don't have as many huge bucks, but I'm sure
Yeah.
if you didn't have people just tracking the size of their feet and they were passing deer, not just shooting them based off of like you want the meat, then you would get a lot bigger bucks. Granted, there's the browse is different. There's not agriculture. They're living off of acorns and clear cuts.
Yeah.
They're just not gonna get to the same size. It's not corn. It's
Yeah.
not the same nutrition.
Yeah. You don't have corn-fed linebackers walking these ridges out in New Hampshire. It's not the
Yeah,
same game.
no,
I like your point there too, where like that's one of my reasonings where I don't always follow the biggest track. When I'm tracking whitetails, if I see a clip size track, I'm going. Doesn't matter. It might
yeah.
be 200 pounds, but it also might sport a rack twice the size of the last one I shot. Who knows? Half of the fun is just following the thing. As you get on a track, you start hyperventilating. You're like, holy
Yeah.
cow, like maybe I'll actually find him. And then you
What?
come around the corner and he's staring at you.
How much did that 6 point that you shot? I mean, he didn't have huge antlers, but he looked like a big body deer in the snow.
The one from this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was only a 4 point,
Oh, four.
106,
Okay.
167 pounds. So I still have his skull outside. I kind of want to send in the lower jaw to get aged just to see. It is. I'm curious. I
It is
wouldn't doubt
curious. Yeah.
he is the 3.5-year-old deer. He just his rack seems a little dwarfed,
Mm.
but I'm happy with him. I had humbled me again and kind of gave me it made my day yesterday. I was listening to the Staggercast. I don't know if you listen to that, but Travis
I've heard
Williams
of it.
got
I
on there.
haven't watched it.
It's awesome. Great guys. I met Adam, Isaac, kind of know him for a little bit from Huntstock last year, but Travis Williams from Northwoods Whitetails was doing a podcast on there the other day and gave me just such a nice shout out of my film from this year, which was lovely to hear.
That's
And it
awesome.
reminded me why I'm out in the woods.
No, yeah, I think your videos are great. So for anybody that's watching, just go check out his videos. Like I love them. I think over the years, I'm kind of sad because people get the wrong perspective. Like, oh, big woods tracking bucks is like so easy. You just like follow the tracks and just like hunt. It's like if you don't have any snow, like that makes it difficult depending on the season. And there's a lot of other factors that go into it. It's not like you're like there was this one guy from have you heard of the Just Hunt Club?
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah,
met a
so
bunch of those guys last year.
Brett
Yep.
Joy and
Brett.
some of them, they brought out a guy, I think from New York or something, and he shot like a 150-inch buck on the first day right near a road. And I'm like, that never happens. Like just the
Yeah.
odds of like that happening. They tell them they're like that just doesn't happen. And I think people get a perspective where they can just like, oh, I'm gonna go northeast hunting and just like get a tag. And like I think 40% of people are successful in New Hampshire harvesting a buck. Or I don't remember the exact stat I was looking at the other day, but it's not very high. It's the second lowest in the country for success rate. Maine, Vermont, and New Hampshire are up there.
Yeah.
So
You see that Facebook clip that pops up every once in a while, and it's a guy getting interviewed on the lakeside, and he's saying, I've hunted like 25 states for
I
deer.
have seen that.
Maine is the worst state to hunt deer in, or the hardest state. And these guys consistently go out and they sit on stumps or they track deer. New Hampshire, just the same. Vermont, just the same. There's definitely little intricacies between the three states, but
100%.
I think that northeast population of hunters are just. I'm sorry to the West Coasters, but we're different. We
No,
are
no,
we are
and
gonna
it
go
is.
outside and walk through the foot deep stream to keep going. We're gonna go.
Yeah.
We're just gonna go until we can't.
And that's something that's interesting because I've had the perspective of both sides of it. I've been able to see like Idaho hunters and West Coast and like Midwest, and then I've been able to see the East Coast where I grew up. So like even this buck right here is probably my smallest bow buck, and that was my first out of state deer. So he's got three on one side, and then he's got two. He's got like a 16, 17-inch spread, but he's got like no tines. Like just they're like super tiny. He had almost 7 to 8 inch hoofs, like just monster,
It's a
monster of hoof.
Midwest deer.
No, so that was New England.
No kidding.
So so
Huh.
just huge Massachusetts like foot deer,
So
tiny antlers.
you hear about those bucks with the clown feet.
And I'm like, if I was tracking this deer, I would think he's a freaking 180-inch deer, like just based off the hoof, if you're going based off that. But I mean, granted,
Yeah,
he did have a big body. He also was very gray. The color of his coat was just like a color that I've never seen. Usually they're darker brown or a lighter brown, but he was like gray and then all white, beautiful. Like I should have kept
nice.
the
Double
cape,
throat patch
but
kind of thing.
yeah, it was close to that, but it was like it almost looked like a mule deer. It was kind of cool, but he was just like thick, all rutted up in his neck, and it was on Halloween, so they were moving and rutting at the time. But as I see different like strategies, I wrote this down, but something that I've learned is like glassing with binoculars. Like I never did that growing up because I couldn't see more than 40 yards in the bedding areas I was hunting. Like you can't glass from mountains like you do out west compared to here, and I'm sure you see that in Maine.
Yeah, there's like one area that so one of the moose hunts, I had 3 moose hunts this fall, and it was different because up north we went way up zone 1 for my mother's hunt and couldn't really see far. You had like a couple cuts and roads that you could see 300 or 400 yards. And then we go on my buddy's hunt and we went to this specific area that that huge antler came out of and get there and you can see a mile and a half in places. You could see to the next mountain and there's a cut on the next mountain. You can like bingo, black spot. That is a moose up there. And we got to go over there now. And some of those areas, it's funny, like deer hunting around here. I carry binos. I had a buddy of mine text me the other day. He's like, "Hey, I'm ready to go shed hunting. What kind of binos do you have?" Doesn't matter. If you have a monocular that can see 65 yards, because that's about as far as you can see, I've glassed up like 1 or 2 sheds ever, and it might have been 100 yards away, might have been a buck 20.
Yep.
Yeah,
I mean, most of the sheds I find in New Hampshire, I don't think I've ever done it, but one thing that I do is I'll check down trails if I can see a trail like going a certain way, just so I don't have to walk when it splits 3 ways. I
yeah,
don't, I can just check down it, and that's something that I got from Jeff Doyle, doing his videos. I think that's his name, the guy from
yeah.
YouTube.
Jeff
Um,
is so great.
yeah,
If you don't
he's a
follow him
great
on
guy.
Instagram, you got to. He is hilarious.
No, he's super funny and he kills big deer. And one thing I
Yeah,
appreciate him is he got that like big New Hampshire buck with a bow, which I see a lot of people. I mean, all of these behind me are bow bucks. Like I haven't gun hunted, and that's just because I grew up with parents that they didn't want me to go out with a gun by myself, which
yeah.
I understand. And then
And you made it work.
spot and stalking is different, like you said. So like out there, you can see miles with a spot like a spotting scope, and people have phone scopes out there. Like out here, you just can't do that. Like I had never spotted and stalked a buck before um until going out there. So that was different. I feel like you can be more aggressive out there and just like walk around with a bow when you see them, and try to play the wind. But out here, it's just like it's crunchy, it's loud. You can still hunt, but it's I don't think
Yeah.
still hunting with a bow is just as effective. But
I think you're much more kind of tied to where you're at instead of see and go, where you can spot and stalk up here, but it's going to be like, oh, they're in the back of the field. I got to
yeah.
circle them or something. The only thing I've spot and stalked up here is turkeys.
Yeah,
That's about it.
that is
Turkeys or
I've done
ducks.
that, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll yank this shed down so you can get a look at how big he is.
So he's doing that. Some of the interesting things that you see, like issues out there, is like leasing. We don't have leasing issues in Idaho. For Idaho, a lot of the land is starting to get leased. Midwest land is getting leased, but in Maine and New Hampshire, the nice thing is that there's a lot more public land than other places, so you can just get around. So now we'll go back to Ian, and he'll show us this giant shed that he found.
Yeah. That barely fits in the frame. Like, yeah.
Dude, the
Huge.
bowl. crazy.
Yeah. Yep. He's as big as he looks, and he's twice as big in person. We saw this bull twice during my buddy Tanner Daigle's hunt, which shameless plug, it's coming out on the 25th of February. I'm literally editing it after this episode. We saw this bull twice, and matter of fact,
You didn't kill it?
no shot. Came in, it was just like this. All you could see was a nose and then just beams going out into space. We've got a crazy trail cam video of him just in all of his glory. Walks right away from the camera, and then he tilts his head back, and you see that big double front come up. That night that we almost shot him, or that morning, he runs over the ridge, crosses in front of my camera at like 9 in the morning. So 30 minutes had passed, and he traveled like a mile or half a mile or something. Comes back at 8:46 p.m., walking the same direction, missing his right antler.
During hunting season?
He broke it off, shattered it. So all you can see is great big left side, and that one front is left. So he shattered it off kind of like halfway right there, right through the middle. Man. And just had the one and the beam left.
Would you still have shot him?
No. Wednesday, sitting at the truck, 19 minutes before legal shooting light, and you hear paddles on a tree. And he's coming through the trees, and he walks right out at 65 yards next to the truck. 19 minutes before legal. That'll test a man. It's the biggest moose I've ever seen in my life, especially during moose season. And we had a tag, but it was illegal. It would have been illegal to shoot that moose. And then after the fact, I'm looking at him through my binos at whatever it was, 5 something in the morning. And all I can see is that one left antler illuminated in the moonlight. And I'm just kind of like, this is weird. Like, I can't see that other side lighting up. Then we shot a moose later that evening. I checked the camera on the way out and saw that he had broken off a side, and FaceTime my buddies when I got back here. I was like, you are not going to believe what we saw Wednesday morning and how I have proof of it. Because I almost said it to him. I was like, it almost seems like he's missing that side, but
I mean, that is such a cool story. I mean, I love hunting stories like that. I mean, I've had multiple encounters where, like, when I didn't know what me and my dad were doing, just like going hunting. One day we sat in the woods for like 9 hours and came out to the car, and then 3 deer ran across the street right in front of us, and we were just like, "Are you serious? We didn't see anything all day, and then 3 just run out in front of us."
In the middle of editing this film back, it's just kind of, you probably get it too, like editing some hunts or editing footage from 2, 3, 4, 5 months ago. And man, this is great. You just get to kind of relive those hunts through it. Yeah, that hunt that I'm editing now is called Rookie Season, because it was kind of my buddy and I, we're our first seasons of hunting moose. I've done it a couple times. I've been on a handful, shot one of my own back in 2009. And then this year, doing the calling, doing the filming, getting out there for ourselves, it, like, the next narrated piece that I have to add into this film is day one showed us our first rookie mistake in the morning, dragging an antler through the brush. Another bull hit a tree and was instantly right on top of us. So those rookie mistakes we kind of learn now, and whether or not we get a tag this year, we'll still be out there in September. We're going to go play with moose and educate some, like try and pull them in on a call just to get more experience. Whether or not we have friends that have tags, maybe we'll go help them. But
smart. Yeah, I think a lot of times when people don't have a tag, they like just don't go out, because obviously people sometimes have more pressing matters, but I think that's good that you guys are trying to educate yourselves. What is the draw system like? Like, how does that work for Maine moose? I know, like, New Hampshire, it's like once It's very hard to get, like pretty much impossible, I've heard. So
Yep. So it's pretty similar in Maine. We definitely give out far more tags than New Hampshire and Vermont. I think Vermont only gives out under 20, something like that.
yeah,
New Hampshire might be 500, maybe not even that many, 100 tags.
I don't even think it's that many. Yeah.
Maine gave out over 4,000 last year.
I mean, there's a lot of moose. I went up
Yeah.
on the Kennebec River whitewater rafting, and I mean, I saw 8 that one trip
Yep.
just on the river.
Yeah. So if you were up on the Kennebec, did you go into the forks to go
Yeah.
rafting? Yeah. So I grew up another 40 minutes north of that
Oh, okay.
in Jackman.
Sweet.
So rafting, the whole moose deal, that's my backyard. Um, yeah, so it's kind of similar to Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire. It's a lottery system. Me as a resident, I put in at $15 for one entry is all I get. I
Okay.
have this year I'll have 5 bonus points for or preference points for that tag. So I get a little bit of preference, but not much. So I'm not expecting a tag. It would still be a hell of a surprise to get drawn this year. Um, that big bull I showed you, he's still alive as far as I know, unless he got his ass really kicked when he broke his antler off.
Yeah.
Um, we've got another couple bulls that if I am to pull tags, I have my zones in my back pocket that, and through shed season this year, if I find a good one like this one, I know where I'm going, and it's an archery tag for me. I already shot a moose with a rifle,
Do you
so
think there's a state record moose out there?
absolutely,
I don't know a
absolutely.
ton about score. Like what is the record?
So I want to say archery record is just around 185, might be pushing 190.
Wow.
So thinking about that, like that big shed, it's only got 7 points. 7 points. It's got good width. I don't know what he would really have for a spread. He might, I
Yeah,
think
that's
when
the
we,
hard thing about a moose. I have
yeah.
no clue what the spread would be.
So when we score a moose like this antler is 60 and 1/8 inches. So if you at least give the other side that much, so he's got a buck 20 there, and then you give him, let's say, 50 inches on a spread, you're talking 170-inch moose. So it's not going to take that moose very much to go from 170 to maybe 190, maybe 180. I bet he was 180 inches this year.
Yeah.
I think from the trail cam videos and thinking that that bull is the same one because it was right in the same area. That bull gained points, looked like he gained a ton of width on that left side. Um, if you were to hunt in like zone 1, zone 5, zone 2, 4, 7, even where I'm at now, some of those zones, if you put the time in and you go way out there, if I get a tag, I am not even in the thought that I'm getting that moose out whole. I'm packing it out because I'm going to be so far in there trying to find a bull that nobody's ever seen other than a deer tracker on a mission. And I think you could absolutely shoot a state record moose. I absolutely think you could. Yes, it's going to be extremely hard to find. You got to pick the right zone. But I think we're on track to at least have a gunning shot at it between shed hunting as much as we do. Dawson works in the woods. I spend a hell of a lot of time out there and just being familiar, knowing places that moose like to spend their time and then getting out and doing the scouting. So that's something the scouting bit we got to get better at is finding those areas. We got pretty good this year. We put out 4 or 5 cameras for Tanner and Dawson's hunt. For my mother's hunt, I had 3 or 4 cameras out, had 1 or 2 SD cards stolen.
Yeah, that tends to happen on public land. It's just unfortunate.
Yeah, I understand it. Like you're a guide, you're whatever. This it is your livelihood. That's what makes you money. But play fair. Go
Yeah.
shoot a moose on one of your other 25 spots.
Do
Like
you have service out there to do cell cams?
I I don't have service in that spot. I have service in a couple other spots that I am curious to put out a cell camera. Mentally for me, the only way I would use a cell camera is if it's a place I'm not going to be hunting instantly.
For
Like
sure.
I've got a property up the road that I can be at in 10 or 12 minutes. I don't want to have that mentality of like bing, the photo shows up and I can just look, oh, yep, target option number one is there.
Yeah.
Pack up the truck, let's go. It's a moral battle for me with cell cameras. It's just
Same.
inside, it's another tool to be able to use. Where that camera I told you about, I dropped it in November, deer hunting, still out there. I've got a camera from over a year and a quarter ago that's still out. Haven't touched
What do
it.
you use for cameras mostly?
All kinds. I got a couple Brownings that
I have,
suck, and
yeah.
I'll tell them so. Where I've got a water all through them. Couple Wild Game Innovations ones. I have that little cube one.
Mm-hmm.
Handful of others. When the YouTube channel gets a little bit more popular, maybe we'll start pulling a trail camera sponsor. Hopefully,
Same.
if you're listening, Tacticam, slide in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Tacticam or Muddy or Exodus, one of your guys.
yeah,
I can't afford because I'm poor. Yeah.
yeah.
What is the biggest mistake that you think you guys made the first year of moose hunting? And my secondary question is, how do you pattern a moose besides rub lines? Like, how big is their core? Because they must travel a lot. They're huge animals.
Yep. I think it's hard to answer that for the patterning bit because we're so new to actually hunting them in a mindset that we can remember old hunts. Our mistake, my mother's hunt, for the first day in the morning of Tuesday. So we only get 6 days to hunt. So Monday all
Wow.
day and Tuesday morning, I was kind of the primary. I was doing all the calling, all the raking. I think I was too kind of not quiet, but just less. I wasn't aggressive enough. I wasn't confident enough in what my calling sounded like. I didn't know. And then Tuesday evening, we went out with my uncle Eric. Eric guides for Lake Parlin Lodges. He is a moose master at this point. He had called a bull in Tuesday morning to 10 feet, 10 feet, walked right out to the road, walked up the road right to him. He could have shot it, but he was doing archery and just he wanted that state record bull. He wanted to shoot for that 185 plus. So he passed on that bull. It ran off, called it back, and it responded. And he was like, "All right, it's going to sit at the water all night or all afternoon, and we're going to go in and shoot it this evening with Ian's mother." So we walk in there. He sweet talks it, and it just gets up out of its bed and comes in on a string. Hangs up for a second, rakes a tree. He gives a couple cow calls, and then if you're the moose, spins 180 and calls away from the moose, and then it just comes right in. Yeah, yeah, sweet talked it, and man, it came right out. It was nuts. Walked in like 45 yards broadside, flanked us, 3 shots, it dumped.
Oh, you got it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, sick.
My mother shot a moose, and then Eric missed one Saturday morning on his own tag, and then passed one 20 minutes to the end of the season.
I respect that. It's people don't understand how hard it is to pass something to fulfill what your goals are. A lot of people will pass the same deer on the first like couple weeks, and then on the last day they might shoot that same deer or one of that caliber or smaller and kind of lose their goals throughout the season. And I think some people aren't willing to take that tag suit. I understand.
Yeah, I think I'm right in the middle of that, and
Same.
especially this fall where I shot at a deer. No, I passed one first. I passed one like the first week, jumped it, snorted, ran after it, and grunted, and it stopped 75 yards broadside. Could have dumped it where it stood. went like another week in the pouring rain. Jumped one. Yep, that's a buck. And during the swing, yep, antlers, click the safety off. He's a little small, and just pulling it off. It's at that point, it's muscle memory for me to just bang, shoot, and send one. Missed. And I'm happy I missed. And I accepted that of like, I should not have pulled the trigger. That buck I missed and the buck that I passed were probably bigger than the buck I shot on the 19th or something. They were probably bigger. I shot a 4-pointer that was like maybe 10 inches, 12 inches wide. Happy as can be. I would have absolutely despised myself if I shot a buck first week. There's a clip that I'll send you from Tanner and Dawson's moose hunt. A little vulgar of me after the hunt when we're cutting it up, and Tanner was just like, man, it all happened so fast, and now we're here. And I'm like, don't you get what I mean now? Who the hell would want to shoot a moose on a Monday? Who would want a 6-day hunt to end on the first day? We shot ours on a Wednesday evening.
If hunting was easy, nobody would enjoy it. Like the sweating to death, can't breathe, like just all that stuff that makes it miserable makes it more exciting. And that's what I hope that my kids in the future, like when I have kids and like other people will be able to get that, not like a kid shooting a booner on a food plot his first deer. Like
yeah, I don't necessarily feel bad for my cousin Max. He went with me 2 days. First day we jumped a buck. Second day he shot a 135-inch 8-pointer as his first buck.
Wow.
Definitely
but
a little
that's
luck
different though.
involved there.
He probably I mean, you're still hiking and stuff, but yes, of
Yeah.
course. There's
He
always that
tracked
luck factor for sure.
Yeah, he tracked it down with me. He tracked it. We were tracking a smaller one, and that one just came across into a call. And I said to him, I was like, I think it's going to take a little while for you to understand what I'm saying, but sell your camo, because that's the biggest deer you're ever going to see for a minute. If you see a 140-inch deer in Maine, like, you found a good one. Deer don't get that big often up here. I have a good amount of meat in the freezer right now, and between the moose, I'm gonna hold out next fall. If I have the time that I had this year and last, I'm holding out. I'm shooting a 200-pound deer, and I'm gonna just work my ass off until I find one.
What do you do for work? Lobster fisherman?
Yeah, that's right. Last summer I was a lobster fisherman off the coast of Maine, so I got pretty lucky. Had a great captain. Unfortunately, didn't make a ton of money last summer, but we worked it out to where I stepped off of the boat in September, scouted, worked on my brand through September, did the moose hunts, and then came up here to Sugarloaf, and I'm a ski patroller right now. So
Sweet.
ski patrol will end in April, May sometime. I'm going to try and line it up so that right when I get out of ski patrol, I can kind of pack up the back of the truck and hit the woods for 2 weeks. I'll come back into town when I need to do laundry.
So do you snowmobile out to most of your spots, or do you just take a truck through the thickest, nastiest stuff to get back there? I mean, the sheds that I found, this one, so this moose is my biggest. So the neighbor found his in it's kind of got an acorn here, which is kind of cool. And then the base is just, I love the base. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah. Nice.
But it's pretty thick. Not anything compared to yours, but that one, the neighbor found his in a flower bed in his backyard.
Wow.
Near the river bottom. And then I found a different one in the actual river. I don't know if you saw that on my social media, but it was laying in the river.
I think I did. Yeah.
So that was pretty
familiar.
cool. And he's got cool fronts. Like, I mean, this is thick as can be. I mean, my fingers don't fit around it. So those are some of my coolest moose finds, but I don't know. It's just something different. I haven't been moose shed hunting in New Hampshire. I mean, I've lived here, but I've just mostly done for deer because we don't have a lot of moose where I live. I mean, I've walked up on cows, but you never see bulls.
Yeah. I've got a buddy, Nick Compagna. He does a lot of moose shed hunting between Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine. He's got it. He's got it going on, and he finds some slammer moose antlers. He
Is he
had
up north?
he is, and I want to say he was well over 170 sheds last year. He must have been.
Holy crap.
Yeah, with a
Just
dog.
moose?
I think he must have found a couple deer sheds in there, but
Still.
probably not many. Probably not a ton because he's in moose country, but you find a couple deer antlers. I haven't found deer and moose in the same day, but I'd love to.
My best
Is
day
it
ever was moose, elk, whitetail, and a mule deer shed on the same day. I'll never do that again.
a quad? Wow.
But you'll never find whitetail and mule deer and moose and elk all in the same place almost ever. It was just very
Yeah.
rare occurrence. That is a freak.
So that's one of my favorite moose sheds. So triple front, he's spinning around. He's got a little
No
nub off the
way.
back, and then just like horrifying mass all the way up. And the base is a nice little oval, like pretty small, but hell, it's as big as that one. But
So is that just a genetic thing, or do you think he's just super old and just maybe on the downward side?
hard saying. It's really hard saying, but I'd love to see his next year's antler. It'd be really cool.
Yeah, I
Um,
know. I know a lot of times with antlers, sometimes when they get older, they start getting that trash. So that's a cool one.
that's my Tom and Jerry moose. It's like perfectly cartoon rounded tips. Looks like Bullwinkle maybe when he was a young bull, but he's got a little bubble back there that sticks up. And this one was tines down right in the road. So to answer your question on snowmobiling and stuff, I used to have a Skidoo Tundra, like a real old one, and I would just right through the leaves and the trees and just get anywhere I wanted. And I found three sheds off of that sled.
Mm.
One was in like January or something with some friends out mountain riding and stuff. And then two were on a day where I was looking for sheds. I went out and I found a little 3-pointer, and then I found a nice like 6 or 7 point big paddle one. Um, and then I sold that sled and I bought like a real Skidoo Summit mountain sled. So now the riding that I'm doing now is more just I want to go out and be a better snowmobile rider instead of going into these places that moose are in the winter. I don't want to go out and pressure them. You probably just saw it that Utah shut down shed hunting
I just had a
until
podcast about that yesterday. Yeah.
yeah. So in that in light of that, I am not shed hunting right now. I don't need to go out and stress these moose out and run
Nope.
around on them when they already have a hard. I know that their legs are 3 feet long and they can get through the snow, but they're already having a hard time. Why do I need to be out there pushing them a little bit more to where I could just wait 5 weeks, 6 weeks, and they're pretty much through that period to where the snow's only a foot or 2 feet deep. I can be out there a little easier on top of the crust or on snowshoes, or wait until the last week of April and then just go walk around on dirt.
Yeah. And you're being ethical about it and not having to rely on a shed season date. And that's the thing I like is that you have agency to choose, like, do I want to wait because I'm
Yeah.
a good ethical shed hunter because I care about the animal, or you just going out there because all you care about is the money and just run through the snow.
Yeah. And I saw a comment on somebody's Instagram post about that Utah closure yesterday, and they're like,
Hmm.
it only hurts the ethical shed hunter
Yep.
because people that don't
Was
care
that
about closures, and
Martin?
it might have been Martin or it might have been Ben DiMatti,
Okay.
Shed Crazy.
Yep.
Shed Ben is such a nice guy.
Yeah,
I've talked to him a
he's
couple
actually a
times.
member of my church, so
Wow, that's cool.
he's a great guy.
Yeah. Um, he was a big help to me, and he kind of was a little bit of a support system for like quitting my job out of police work and wanting to do this full time. Like I'm still working at that. I want to I'm trying to work into something remote on the computer and focus on this stuff. But yeah, can't speak highly enough of that guy. But those closures only hurt the ethical shed hunter to where, like, if you're going to break laws, you're going to do it anyways. So
Yeah,
it's really difficult to enforce a shed ban, like, especially up here. If guys were out shed hunting and we couldn't shed hunt until the second week of April or something, who's to say they're not shed hunting? Are the wardens going to be out there yanking everybody off their sleds, being like, "Are you looking for moose antlers? What are you doing? Are you
exactly.
mountain riding?" And it's going to create more of
It's
an
not
issue.
realistic to stop all those people.
Yeah, I think it's hard to say, but like you in New Hampshire, me in Maine, me, the next guy down the road that looks for sheds too. We are all trying to do the same thing. I want to go around. I want to find this bull's antlers from this year. I don't want to find him dead. I don't want to
Yeah.
find that big bull dead. I don't want to see that. I want to see it if I pull a tag.
Deadheads are cool to find, but you're not happy. I'm not
No,
happy when I find a deadhead. I'm
no.
sad, especially if it's a shed bull, because that's even worse. I mean, I
Yeah.
found a dead moose with the antlers already off of it, and I'm like, well, that's sad. Like,
Yeah.
never know what happens to him.
My first brown antler that I really pulled, I kicked it off of a dead moose. That was my introduction to shed hunting.
Yeah.
I kicked it off of a not a roadkill, but I think it got hit by a car, broke a leg, and then waddled into the woods and died. Is pretty much what I read from it. Um, a message to anybody listening of just do the right thing. Just wait. I've got a lot of friends that shed hunt a ton, and me myself, I am incessant about this. I am totally obsessed. Save your money right now. Put that $40 you were going to put in your gas tank to drive up north into your bank account and save it. Save it to like buy a tent or buy a sleeping bag for the back of your truck and then wait. Save up your vacation days, pull like a 3 or 4 day stretch and go do it. Instead of taking these 1 day trips, running into these spots, scaring all the moose out of the places, scaring the deer out of the yards. Like, I cannot imagine. Were you in New Hampshire like a week ago for that cold spell?
Yep.
It was -50, negative
Yeah.
60 up here.
Yep. I think we hit like -40 and Mount Washington was -108. It was the coldest
Yeah,
place on the planet and colder than Mars.
exactly.
Not that there's
So,
animals up there, but there's animals lower than that that's still -60 or whatever.
oh yeah,
I don't care how
yeah,
much fur they have. There
it still
becomes a certain
sucks.
point where they do have to dig through feet of snow to get anything. And there was no acorns this last year in New Hampshire that much.
Yeah,
So, I mean, there's not much to dig for. And there, I've seen deer. I mean, this has been a mild winter besides the cold for us. We haven't gotten a ton of snow in southern New Hampshire. So they're not like I've seen them in the past when it's really bad winter when we get like 2 feet in one storm multiple times, that's when they'll start eating bark, and you know they're hurting at that point because they're not getting a whole lot of nutrition. I mean, but to your point of like going out early, I mean, this shed right here, and then so like there is shed seasons out there, but I knock on doors and get private permission to some places so I can go out earlier.
yeah,
Um so this shed right here, my biggest shed ever. So that came probably 300 yards or 300 yards from like this property owner's house up on the mountain. Um on private land, but I know the other side got poached. I walked every single inch of that private land and on the public land once it opened, and it 100% got poached. And there's no way that like if someone, unless like the farmer found it, they have some like ranch hands, and maybe one of them found it and they didn't tell them about it or
yeah,
want to tell me about it because I mean it's a once in a lifetime side. But I mean it would be nice to know and then in the future buy it from them just so
yeah.
they can be together. But I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't pressure him a ton. I mean, I went out because I knew that buck was there, and I knew if I didn't go out on that private land, it would be poached. So like
yeah,
that's why I went out. So that's kind of a different circumstance.
yeah.
But
And like I said, I found sheds in December before.
yeah,
It's easy to want to go out, and I didn't see any moose that day, but I said I heard one. I rode in Fort Kent last year, rode mountain sleds for 3 or 4 days with friends, and we rode into this one area, and we're going. It's steep, getting up into the skid trail, and moose stands up. Like, oh, we're done. Spin the sleds around. We're getting out of here. I think just some of that, like that, is a little thing to do. Ride another 10 minutes down the road. Go find another cut to go play in. Go play in a hardwood ridge. Do that
yep,
stuff. Wherever, like, be legal about where you're riding and stuff. But
for sure.
I think just paying attention. Don't chase the moose down the logging road. Don't be an idiot is what I'm trying to
Yeah,
say. Don't be
it's
stupid.
simple. Don't mean
Yeah. Yeah.
and I
Pretty
think
much.
for our younger generation, like I've had some experiences. Like I went on some land that before I had Onyx and before I was experienced out there, like in New Hampshire, the rule is like if it's not posted, you can go on it. In Idaho, that's what it was, but it changed. And I didn't know it changed, and there was no signs, and I there was no fences, there was no nothing, and I was going through this valley, and I got screwed, and I walked probably 300 yards onto that person's property, found a dead elk for one video, and then the landowner saw it on social media and they knew it was their property. And I was like, I had no clue, and I talked to him and he got quite frustrated, but it was a learning experience for me that like you need to know all the property lines and you need to know what's going on because sometimes you're in the wrong without even knowing it. So it's just the preparation that goes into it.
Yep.
Um, but I
Yeah.
mean, people will harass the crap out of elk like out in Idaho. They'll run them down with dirt bikes or snow machines, and it just ruins it for
Yeah.
everyone. And we have wolves that are attacking them too. I've heard reports of the occasional. My buddy got one on trail camera in New Hampshire, but I don't know if Maine you ever get wolves coming down from Canada.
I wouldn't doubt it. We gotta have all the big tree of lynx, wolves, mountain lions. We gotta have it all. We got a huntable population of lynx at this point.
Yeah,
But the state's not willing to say we do. And I understand it. It's just
yep,
one more thing that you gotta police. But
yeah. Bobcats. I've gotten more bobcats on trail camera in the last 2 years than I've ever seen, and the neighbors see them all the time. And we had never seen bobcats before. My parents have lived here for 27 years, and they never
no
saw
kidding.
bobcats.
Huh.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
they're growing in population, and I mean, it's good to see they're beautiful animals. Like, don't get me wrong, like they are beautiful. Fishers, not the most beautiful thing in the world, but loud as crap, and they're scary. Like I thought some girl was getting killed in the backyard one time. Our friends sent us a video, our neighbors, and it was like, is someone dying in the woods? Because it was like just screaming.
Yeah, they're a nasty little animal, but to me it's fisher and otter are probably my favorite right now. Where I haven't like felt the lynx or anything. I've seen more lynx than I have bobcats in Maine.
Really
I Yeah, I don't think I've ever
interesting.
seen a bobcat in Maine.
Hmm.
I've seen
Maybe
far
it's
more
because it's
lynx though.
colder. They like that more. I don't know.
Yeah, they're moving south. They're getting eaten too.
Yeah,
Yep.
the lynx are or the
The
bobcats.
bobcats, yeah. The population's not doing great. They've
Mm,
definitely dwindled. I got a buddy, if you're on Instagram, check out Maine Meat Co.
okay.
He's got a little pup that he runs cats with, and it's getting hard pressed to find a cat places. Yeah, Cam's just drying up. Can't find him, but
Can you
he's
hunt
doing
them?
pretty good. Yeah, yeah, you
Oh,
can
we
run him with
can't. We can't
dogs.
hunt them, so that's probably why
Yeah,
they're
that
protected
that
here.
would
So,
help too. Yep.
yeah, that I think we would hunt them to extinction pretty quick. I wouldn't say there's definitely not a huntable population probably yet, but that's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Let's see. So we're running out of time on the secondary one, and we'll probably end it there. But I appreciate your time. Like, I love talking, and we could probably have you on again to talk about more things. I like in the perspective from Northeast people and being able to make those comparisons to also the West Coast. I think it's interesting, the ethics we can learn behind shed hunting, what shed hunting teaches us, and how it makes us better hunters. So, is there anything you'd like to say or close with? Any questions for me?
No, pretty good. Congratulations on your muley buck this year, and congrats on the podcast. Just keep it going. Consistency is your best friend. And then for Beyond the Boundaries, you can find us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. It's Ian McSendy or Beyond the Boundaries 207. And we have the Moose Hunt rookie season coming out on February 25th. And then we have a podcast coming out at some point. It's going to be called Meet in the Middle, MEAT, on meeting in the middle on subjects that hunters don't want to talk about, whether it be shed closures, whether it be antler restrictions. We're going to bring up some of the topics that hunters don't want to talk about every day.
Sweet. I
Yeah.
like that. Controversial topics are always good one to talk about. So I like that. Well, if you ever want me on your podcast, I'm no pro or special, but I'd like to think that I'm learning and trying to get better at the thing that we love. So I appreciate you coming on, and if there's anything I can ever do for you, let me know.
Same to you, man.
Alrighty, take care.
Bye.
Yeah, never needed your applause, nah. They been saying it's a fluke, this is not a false alarm.
This is not a false alarm. I'm from a city that really don't play, and also gringo não vi me vingar,